The third one, or the fourth one, was what would I do different if I were to start in my business, in my industry right now. And I am going to answer to this question in English because, first of all, it was asked in English. And then, because when it comes to my profession, shit gets real. And not only that shit gets real, because that's my passion, actually, the only one. The rest, I don't know. It's fun, but it's not so consuming. It's not something I think about all the time. Sort of singing, for instance, or doing this. But clothes, yes. It's probably also because it's my first form of expression, the one that I found first. So, yeah, first loves. You never forget those. Okay, so what would I do different? Well, number one, if I were to start in my industry in 2019, I would probably not start. Fashion is something that is almost extinct. If we talk about Romanian fashion, but if we talk about creativity in the more developed countries like France or Italy or even the US. Oh, comments keep coming in. Oh my God. Ooh, I'm such a success. Yeah. Well, if we talk about Romanian fashion, I will tell you that if you want to start a fashion business, it would be extremely difficult to find suppliers where you could find the best fabrics, because the the producers of very good fabrics are not in Romania. I'm sorry to say, but the textile industry in Romania is pretty much gone. And that is from way, way before. Most of the factories in Romania, the textile factories, are now Kauflands or Lidl or commercial malls or something. So you would need suppliers that come from Italy or France or Japan, and that's pretty much it. Because if you want to buy from Portugal, they might come from Turkey and Spain too, because they usually do not produce themselves. They are engrossiste. That means that they buy bulk and they resell it afterwards from huge depot. I'll do a mix between French and English because I can't find my words. Not all of them, actually. Okay, so then if you want to work with those fabrics and transform them into something, you would need a pattern maker. That's practically impossible to find in Romania nowadays, because that's a job that requires a certain level of skill that's pretty much gone. The pattern makers, the best ones, were the ones that actually knew how to work in tailoring, that knew the classical rules of making a garment. Now, there are some people that use computers to do that, but as it turns out, and I can say that from my own experience, it's not the same shit. Computers can do a lot of stuff, but they cannot replace creativity. And there are certain things a computer can't do, and the human hand can, when it comes to the garment technology and constructing a pattern and all that. So good luck finding a very good pattern worker or pattern creator or whatever you want to call it. To me, that's more important. That's even more important than the initial design itself. Because your idea is great, honey, but if it remains on paper, you can't even wipe your ass with it. Okay, then you would need workers. to sew on the machine, because usually you want, or normally I would want my garment to be as soon at the very best and highest standard, and I know that I am not capable to do that. So I would need a technician, a sewing girl or boy that sits at that table, and keeps sewing, and he or she knows exactly and very, very well what has to be done. Okay, well, good luck again. Not sure. I'm not sure you're going to find that, but it's not impossible. Okay, reasons why I wouldn't start in the industry. But still, if I did, let's say I found the all this, it's not impossible. These are just bullshit. I can work around these, and I would start. First of all, I wouldn't have moved back from France. No matter how hard it was, France and especially Paris is a place for fashion. It has a history, it has the right press, it has lots of people coming in and out. There's always this curiosity, this curiosity of discovering new names, and it's a whole different thing. And that, well, it's not the same thing in Romania. Being in Romania and in fashion, to me, is like being on Grindr. It's all good and fun, but I never get the ones I'd fuck. I have to settle. This is what I do. I settle. Every day a little bit more, which is not cool, because that stifles your creativity, and that puts, after a certain number of years of doing it, that puts a really hard brake on your need to do things, or desire, motivation. Kills it. Okay, so I wouldn't have come back from Paris. I would have tried. I would have, knowing what I know now, I would have been a better listener. I've always had problems in working for other people, because I have a tendency to challenge authority of others. I'm independent. I lack patience, and I think I have a good moral compass, which is not very good when you depend on others. So that's that. Sometimes you just have to keep it short and do as you're told. Acquire some experience, some time on your CV, and slowly walk your way up towards where you want to be heading. So that's that. I would probably would have tried a small line from Paris, at the beginning in my spare time, which was not very, very much. I didn't have much time. When I was working in Paris, because I had no experience and I was Romanian, I had to work from basically all the time, waking up at 7, sending emails to myself in order to find them on the computer when I got to the office, which was 9 in the morning, and then work at the office until about 7 or 8 p.m. And before leaving for home, sending myself some new emails to find on the laptop back home in order to work some more. Yes, I was like that. My free time was about anxiety of not forgetting to answer myself to my emails. But admitting I would have had some spare time, I would have probably started with some basic shit, just to acquire some knowledge. My first collection was, I started working my first collection in 2009. For those of you who do not know this, I started doing clothes in 2009 when I came back from Paris. And I started with a men's line. It was called 22, with it was like I don't know, like a joke. It was what I could think about at the moment, and I thought it was a brilliant idea. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't the best. But I lacked the confidence of putting my name, my entire name, on a label, with me not knowing if I was actually good at it at all. I had no clue. I just had to try it. That's something you have to know about myself. I am the what if guy. I find something that intrigues me, and I tell myself, or I ask myself, what if you tried and do that? See what happens. That's how I started doing clothes. Well, my first collection was very ambitious, actually. It was a reworked basic men's wardrobe. Uh, I had like 3,000 euros men's blazers in cashmere with solid silver custom made buttons. Great idea, nobody bought it. And I tried to do a bit of everything. That's something I wouldn't do now. I had overcoats. I had I had coats. I had jackets. I had shirts, t-shirts, jeanswear, denim, Japanese denim, amazing fabric, horrible to work with. Italian wools, cashmere. Uh, ah, and also I did knitwear. Well, that was an experience. I mean, it was an invest. I invested a lot of money that I didn't have. My mother gave it to me, but not like this is your budget, deal with it, bitch. It was like every time I needed something, I had to go to ask her, and that basically never gave me an initial clue or image of what I had to spend, or I don't know, the entire expense of account. You spend 10,000, now you have to sell for 20,000 in order to get what you put in and make some money out of it, or at least cover your expenses. I never did that, so that I would probably try to do now if I had to start over. I wouldn't do knitwear, and I wouldn't do such a large range of products. I mean, every product is a different know-how, and I didn't know shit about doing clothes. I thought I knew because I was doing product management in Paris, but I was doing product management in Excel and by phone with technicians all around France where we were working our clothes. But being in a factory and having to deal with the workers and having to deal with explaining to them what it means, what do you want from them, basically, because they can do a lot of stuff, but you have to know what to ask, and I knew shit. So know your stuff. Never begin a business where you don't actually know how stuff is done. I had to be really quick about learning things, and I was not quick enough for a factory. And even now, after 10 years, I have to think about, it's not a reflex, yet. If a worker asks me something, I have to, process the information. The answer does not come out of me like air. But it does come out because I know my shit. What else? Listen to other people and their advice, but always tend to do and never forget what you want, because that's the most important. Don't let people pull you to a side or another, give you another direction. Listen to it. It might be something useful for you, maybe, hey, I didn't think about that. Maybe I should at least consider it. So yeah, but then if you think about it and you remain, you process and filter the information and adapt it to your needs. If it turns out that that idea was a stupid one, just don't do it, because you'll get to regret it. Okay, now find a partner, build a team. You can't do this shit alone. For me, it is impossible. I mean, I'm in my 10th year, and I find it ridiculously hard to move my ass and create a collection, knowing that I would be responsible for everything once more. The sketches, the ideas, the concepts, finding the money for the fabrics, finding the pattern worker, uh, pay pay the patterns, go to the factory, begin cutting, supervise everything. In the meanwhile, just check your money. Find a photographer, find a model. Everything has to be the cheapest possible, always. But you don't have to. But the result must look like it's effortless, as if it was like air. It was like hosting a very good party, which I can do very well, but I hate doing in these days. Have money. Have money to spend. Have have money, and may it be not yours, because real business is not done with your personal money. That's something I also learned. I had to sell an apartment I had in Yash and a car in order to develop a bit of my ambitions fashion wise. That was way in 2010 or 11. What else? Be nice to people. It's not that I was not nice, but I was so into my own stuff that I wouldn't, and I didn't want to see anything from the outside. That gave people the impression um, about me that I'm arrogant. I'm not arrogant. I wasn't. I was just someone who was very focused on his own goals and didn't want to be buzzed with other people stuff. That's not good. As passionate as one or I am about my job, it's a job. It's not a life. When they take that away from you, what's left? I did that. I stopped in 2015. I stopped because I had some very personal problems, and I had to stop and reevaluate everything and ask myself, why do I do the things I do, and if I want to do them anymore. At that moment, I said I wouldn't. I don't want to do them anymore, because I was disappointed in everything about the fashion business. You have to deal with a lot of shitty people in the fashion business. And that's something I would have to remind myself every time. Just take what you can from them and leave them behind, because you can't change them. Okay. What else? Be more confident. I would have to be more confident about my work. There was a time, and that was, well, some years ago, when I had a client coming into my showroom. I wanted to hide. I was ashamed. I was never very sure about the quality of my product, although I can tell you that it's execution wise, it is the best I could ever do, and I'm never happy about it. And that's another thing you'll have to remember if you want to come to get into the fashion business, is that it's everything is subjected to taste, taste and history and education of the one that sees it. So that being said, you don't have to add another, um, how do you say that shit? Another challenge, for your customer or the press or any judging eye actually that sees your clothes, and that being the poor quality of it. So you have to work with the best fabrics you can afford, and you have to have the highest level of execution you can afford, and never be happy about it. That's what I did. That's something I would not change. You can say you don't like my clothes, but you can never say they were badly made. Because if you do, I'd be very upset. And that still happens. I have a client that told me that the jumpsuit I made for her last week just ripped in the back. And I know why. And it is not directly my fault, because I keep telling the people I work with the same shit all over again, and I try to make sure they do what they are told. But when you are a team of one doing everything, you just can't control everything all the time. And when I'm not around and sitting or standing next to that machine, well, people tend to do what they want, not what they are told. Yup. Okay. What else? What would I change? Well, God knows. I mean, I don't know what it's like to have a partner and to have the money to fully develop an idea into a business. Oh, yes, I would continue to do the stuff that I really, really want to do, aesthetically, I mean. But I would, and I still would do a line of commercial products that express your values, what you believe in when it comes to fashion, but in a more diluted way and more accessible to everyone, in order to always generate sales, thus money. It's not a bad thing. I mean, selling is not like prostitution. That's something I would have loved to learn before, many years ago. Well, selling your stuff is not prostitution, it's okay to sell. Okay. Well, I have to think some more about it and come back with another reply, because I don't have any more ideas now. We'll see. Well, let's say this is the part one. Thanks for the question, actually. It was refreshing to do this kind of accounting.